There are people who come to you only to take, never to give. They drain your time, your energy, and your peace, then leave as if you meant nothing. You give them everything, yet in return you receive only silence or wounds. The deepest pain is not losing them, but realizing you abandoned yourself in order to hold on to someone who never valued you. In Stoic philosophy, true strength is not measured by how much we can endure, but by knowing when to let go. Each of us has the right to decide where we place our heart, our time, and our peace. When you understand your own worth, you no longer allow others to define it. You learn to live with intention, not reacting to another's chaos, and not handing them control over your life. This is not a path of revenge, but a return to yourself, and that is where we begin. 1. When they recognize your value and exploit it. There is a truth rarely spoken. Not everyone hurts others by accident. Some people know very well the worth you carry. They see your patience, your compassion, your tolerance, and your endurance. Instead of cherishing these virtues, they turn them into tools for their own gain. They appear at moments convenient to them when they need comfort, when they seek refuge from hardship, or when they want companionship through uncertain times. But when their storm has calmed, they quietly leave, leaving you empty and exhausted. This is not a relationship built on reciprocity and understanding, but a one-sided transaction where your kindness becomes a resource they exploit without limit. What makes this situation dangerous is that they know exactly how you will respond. They know you will forgive more times than you should. They know you will try to rationalize their behavior. They are just going through a hard time, or everyone has moments of imperfection. They lean on your empathy as a shield to avoid responsibility, and little by little, they push your boundaries further back, turning what should have been the exception into the rule, until you begin to believe that self-sacrifice is normal. Stoic philosophy reminds us that true value does not lie in how much we give, but in the clarity with which we choose who is worthy to receive it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind is shaped by what it continually thinks. If we keep feeding the idea that unconditional love can transform someone unwilling to change, we turn ourselves into an endless supply for a bottomless need. The Stoic does not call for coldness or selfishness, but for balance between compassion and reason. You may love deeply, but not at the cost of abandoning yourself to preserve a distorted bond. Those who exploit your value rarely act loudly or with dramatic displays. They do not always seek control through aggression. Instead, they use subtler means. Silence at the right moment to stir your anxiety, just enough praise to keep your hope alive, or emotional stories to awaken your sympathy. All of it serves one purpose: to ensure you remain ready to meet their needs regardless of your own feelings. They understand that as long as you believe your patience will be rewarded, they maintain control. But the truth is, not everyone desires healing. Some are content living in cycles of chaos, and they need you to sustain it. When you bring them peace, they use it to recover, only to return to old habits. They do not stay to build a shared home. They dock at your harbor only to weather their storm. This not only drains your energy, but creates a dangerous dependency where you start to define your worth by helping them rather than by who you are. From the Stoic view, here lies the core. Kindness misplaced ceases to be kindness. Giving without limits is not love. It is self-abandonment. And when you set aside your own boundaries, you lose not only the respect of others, but also the respect you owe yourself. Epictetus taught that while we cannot control the actions of others, we can control what we allow into our lives. When someone exploits your value, your responsibility is to recognize it and act. Not with anger or revenge, but by re-establishing boundaries, holding firm to principle, and choosing to give your value only to those who truly honor it. 2. The power of silence. Silence, in the eyes of the Stoic, is not emptiness nor weakness. It is a deliberate choice, a state born of the awareness that not every battle deserves our participation, and not every word requires our reply. When faced with injustice, injury, or manipulation, the natural impulse is to react, explain, defend, or argue. But immediate reaction only feeds the chaos, for it places our emotional control into another's hands. Silence, by contrast, reclaims that control, restoring it to its rightful place within ourselves. Silence is powerful because it disrupts the patterns of those who thrive on our reactions. When someone provokes negative emotion or seeks to stir conflict, they often expect a certain response: anger, justification, or surrender. They are accustomed to the cycle. They create unrest, we react, and they retain control over the rhythm of the relationship. But when silence replaces reaction, the cycle is broken. Instead of continuing the familiar script, we place them in a space where they no longer hold the reins. Seneca once said that the wise are not those who never feel anger, but those not ruled by it. Silence is the tool that allows such mastery. It is not passive suppression of feeling, but an active discipline to preserve inner peace. In silence, we refuse to enter dialogues whose only outcome is to pull us down to another's chaos. This is not retreat out of fear, but a strategic choice to maintain initiative. Silence also grants the space to observe and discern. Amid the noise of conflict, truth is hard to see. But when silence opens a clearing, motives become clearer. The other's intent, our own limits, and the direction the relationship is moving. This clarity is the ground on which sound decisions are made, choices guided not by impulse, but by principle and value. Epictetus reminded us that we cannot control what others say or do, but we can always control our response. Silence is the purest proof of that control. When we do not respond as expected, we protect ourselves from being drawn into emotional storms and send a message that needs no voice. My peace is not yours to disturb. This is a declaration unspoken, yet more powerful than any words. Silence is also a form of self-discipline. It requires restraint and patience to avoid being pulled into provocation. To the Stoics, discipline is the foundation of freedom, for if we cannot command our reactions, we remain prisoners of others' actions. Keeping silent under attack is an exercise of will, strengthening inner fortitude and preserving spiritual independence. What is striking is that silence affects not only us, but also the one before us. When they fail to elicit the reaction they crave, they are forced to face the void left behind. In that void, their power games and excuses collapse. It acts as a mirror, reflecting them back to themselves, often in ways they would rather avoid. For many, this is the most uncomfortable experience, because it strips away their illusions. Within silence, we regain energy, reconnect with our values and goals, and decide our next steps with clarity. It is not the dismissal of problems, but a strategic pause to advance later with greater strength. 3. The void they cannot fill. When someone loses your presence, they may try in many ways to fill that absence, but substitutes rarely succeed. In deep relationships, the most precious gift is not merely care or support, but the quality of connection. The sense of being seen, understood, and wholly accepted. When that is gone, attempts to replace it often yield only hollow shells, where everything looks fine on the surface, but inside remains an emptiness no distraction can erase. True connection cannot be bought, nor manufactured with shallow gestures or fleeting attention. Once someone has known such depth of connection, every future experience will be compared against it, consciously or not. They may enter new conversations, seek companionship elsewhere, but nothing replicates the feeling of being with one who listens without judgment, stays silent when needed, and speaks when words can heal. The void is not about physical absence, but about the loss of a safe space where one could be fully themselves. No hurried replacement can recreate this, for it requires time, trust, and steady sincerity. Stoic philosophy reminds us we cannot control how others value or honor their bonds with us. Epictetus taught that the worth of a relationship lies not in its length, but in whether it is rooted in truth. When a genuine connection is lost through neglect or exploitation, the void left behind is not merely the absence of a person, but the absence of a spiritual experience. Those who once shared that bond discover that no matter how many others they meet, they cannot recapture what was lost, for it was tied to one soul alone, the one they fail to value when given the chance. What makes this void unsettling is that it is not always apparent at once. At first, they may think themselves fine, even free from something burdensome. But over time, the contrast between what they have now and what they once had grows sharper. New relationships may bring early excitement, but lack the emotional depth they once knew. And in that quiet comparison, the emptiness begins to reveal itself. Marcus Aurelius noted that while the mind adapts quickly to new conditions, it just as quickly perceives what is missing when a source of meaning has vanished. The void, therefore, is not simply a hollow feeling, but a reminder of value lost. It exposes the truth that not all attention is connection, and not everyone beside you is truly with you. The void you leave is not revenge, nor punishment, but the natural result of withdrawing your value from where it was unappreciated. When the bond is cut, the other is forced to face the fact that what they seek elsewhere is but a pale imitation of what they once had. And no imitation, however earnest, can restore the wholeness of the original. This is why the void carries weight it cannot be erased by surface comforts, for it dwells in the deepest layers of awareness. To the Stoic, this affirms the principle of intentional living. Give your value with discernment and be ready to withdraw it when it is wasted. The void you leave is not mere absence, but proof of the strength found in honoring your own worth. It sends a silent yet unmistakable message. Your presence is a gift, and when that gift is neglected, its loss will leave a mark that no substitute can erase. 4. Karma is not loud. When people speak of karma, they often imagine a dramatic moment, a visible downfall for all to witness. But from the Stoic perspective, karma is not a public retaliation, nor is it the ego's satisfaction in seeing another collapse. Karma is the natural consequence of choices, like seeds sown in the soil that eventually sprout whether anyone notices or not. It works quietly, slowly, but with certainty, and it cannot be reversed. The Stoics believe that every action creates a chain of reactions, and sooner or later we face the results of our own doing. When someone exploits the trust and kindness of others, they are planting seeds of loss for their own future. At first, they may think they have escaped consequence, since no immediate punishment appears, but karma has no need to hurry, for its essence is not in harming, but in allowing one to live in the very environment they have created. An environment without trust, without genuine connection. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that pain arises not from external events, but from how we perceive them. Likewise, karma does not inflict loss through direct action, but lets one's own awareness become the source of suffering. When a person loses something precious they once dismissed, they must live with the knowledge that their own actions caused it. And this is slow, lingering, and beyond relief through excuses or justifications. What makes karma distinct from revenge is that it requires no intervention from the one who was wronged. You need not witness it, expect it, or participate in hastening it. For when you step away and leave another's chaos behind, you allow karma to unfold fully. In your absence, they have no one left to blame, no one to exploit, no one to soothe the unrest within. Epictetus taught that while we cannot control circumstances, we can always control how we respond. In this case, the strongest response is non-response, the choice to walk away, preserve your energy, and remain on your own path. By doing so, you stop shielding the other from the natural consequences of their behavior. In the past, your patience and tolerance may have softened the impact of karma. But once you leave, nothing stands between them and the results of their choices. Karma often appears in the quietest moments, when everything seems stable. It does not need to shatter instantly, but gradually makes one aware of an inner emptiness, one that cannot be filled with shallow relationships or fleeting attention. This is the deepest form of consequence, for it arises not from outside forces, but from within, facing oneself and the truth that something worthy was destroyed by one's own hand. For the Stoic, understanding this law is liberation. Knowing that karma operates on its own, you no longer waste time or emotion trying to balance the scales. You can leave the past behind and move forward unburdened by the desire to see another regret or fail. And this itself is the greatest victory. You are no longer dragged down by what lies outside your control. Karma, in its silence, does the rest. 7. You are the one who assigns meaning to everything. Every event, word, or action you experience begins in a neutral state. They are simply sounds, images, or movements in the world. They carry no inherent positive or negative charge and hold no power over your mood. What makes you happy, sad, angry, or disappointed is the meaning you attach to them. This means the power to decide your emotions always lies with you, not with anything outside. When someone says something unpleasant, the words themselves cannot harm you. They only become an emotional wound if you accept them as truth or attach a negative meaning to them. Conversely, if you see them as nothing more than a string of sounds unworthy of attention, their impact dissolves instantly. The difference does not come from the world changing, it comes from how you choose to interpret it. Stoicism teaches that our emotions arise from our perceptions, not from events themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if you are troubled by something outside yourself, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your judgment of it, and you always have the power to change that judgment. This is not merely a reminder, but an empowerment, affirming that you are never forced to live as a hostage to circumstances. Realizing that you assign meaning to everything also opens the door to reframing experiences. Instead of reacting negatively out of habit, you can choose a new perspective that turns a discomfort into a learning opportunity. Instead of letting criticism pull you down, you can take it as a cue to improve or as proof of another's limited view. By consciously choosing your perspective, you protect yourself from needless emotional turmoil. This practice requires mindfulness and consistent training. Whenever emotions surge, pause and ask yourself, what meaning have I just given this? Is it truly accurate or just my habitual reaction? In creating that moment of self-inquiry, you make space to reinterpret and thus change the feeling. When you live with the awareness that you decide the meaning of every event, you become less shaken by external shifts. You understand that peace doesn't come from a world that always cooperates. It comes from always having the choice of perspective. Mastering this choice is a major step toward becoming steady, free, and unshakable in any circumstance. 8. Detaching emotionally to love and live without dependency. Emotional detachment does not mean closing your heart or living coldly and without feeling. On the contrary, it is the ability to love, care, and enjoy life fully while keeping your inner independence, refusing to tie your happiness or peace to someone else's behavior, reactions, or presence. It is the state where you can give genuine affection and open yourself to the world, yet not lose yourself when circumstances shift. Without emotional detachment, we easily fall into dependency, where our emotions rise and fall according to how others treat us. A compliment lifts us, a criticism drops us. When a relationship or work outcome doesn't go our way, we feel loss and emptiness. This dependency makes us vulnerable and strips us of control over our own life. Emotional detachment is the way out, allowing you to remain balanced in any situation. The Stoics saw this as one of the highest forms of inner freedom. Epictetus stressed that freedom does not come from satisfying every desire, but from freeing ourselves from the grip of what lies beyond our control. When you detach emotionally, you are no longer trapped in the cycle of expectation and disappointment, for you know that love, approval, and external results may change, but your inner stability and worth remain, if you choose to guard them. Emotional detachment also allows you to love and give more healthily. You still care and stand beside others, but you love without clinging or controlling. You let relationships grow naturally, free from fear of loss or the urge to possess. This not only shields you from emotional shocks, but also allows love to become purer, freer, and more mature. Cultivating detachment requires constant observation and self-awareness. Whenever your emotions swing too quickly or too strongly due to external triggers, ask yourself, am I responding to this situation or am I depending on it? This question draws your attention inward, reminding you that your emotions are yours and you have the right to nurture or adjust them. When you reach this state, you will find that you can love deeply, live passionately, and savor every moment without losing yourself. You will no longer be bound to outcomes or external validation, and thus you will be freer, more peaceful, and more enduring in both love and life. This is one of the most solid foundations for building an unshakable inner life and a fulfilled existence. 9. Train non-reaction as a habit. The ability to remain non-reactive in the face of provocation or pressure is not an inborn trait. It is a skill that must be intentionally cultivated. Most people react instinctively when their emotions are triggered, because the mind is conditioned to respond immediately to defend the ego or satisfy the urge to assert itself. Yet, these impulsive reactions are often the very reason we make mistakes, lose our composure, and create unwanted consequences. To change this, you must make not reacting immediately a natural habit, an integral part of your identity. Training yourself not to react does not mean suppressing your emotions or pretending you are unaffected. It is the practice of creating a short but vital pause between stimulus and response. That pause allows you to observe the situation, identify the emotions arising, and choose the most appropriate response rather than acting on a momentary impulse. Every time you create this pause, you are training your mind to prioritize reason over instinct. Stoic philosophy consistently emphasizes mastering your own reactions. Marcus Aurelius wrote that our strength lies in keeping the mind unmoved by what happens around us. This does not mean becoming numb, but staying aware that emotions are merely signals, while actions are always a choice. When you refuse to be swept away by the surge of immediate emotion, you can choose the path that serves your long-term good rather than your momentary gratification. Begin this practice with small, everyday situations. When something irritates you, try taking a deep breath, silently counting a few beats, or simply staying quiet before speaking. These seemingly minor acts can reset the brain's default response pattern. Over time, you will notice yourself becoming naturally calmer in situations that once would have provoked a sharp reaction. Once ingrained, this habit transforms how you face pressure, conflict, and even direct attacks. You no longer get pulled into pointless arguments. You become less susceptible to others' emotional influence, and you gain the ability to make sound decisions even under stress. At that point, non-reaction is no longer just a self-control technique, it becomes part of who you are, anchoring your steadiness and self-mastery in any circumstance. This is the foundation for true emotional freedom and lasting peace, no matter the situation. 10. Build a strong inner world. A strong inner world is the foundation that keeps you steady amid the turbulence and pressures of the external world. When your mind is nourished and fortified daily, you are no longer easily swept up by sudden emotional waves or unexpected events. But if your inner world is empty, chaotic, or lacking direction, even the smallest outside force can disturb your peace. Building your inner world, therefore, is not optional. It is essential to maintaining emotional stability and clarity. The process begins with cultivating self-awareness. Spend regular time observing what is happening in your mind, which thoughts keep repeating, which emotions are it most often, and which beliefs guide your actions. This awareness is like tending an inner garden, removing weeds of negativity and outdated biases, and planting seeds of positive values. When you clearly know what resides in your mind, you can shape the direction of your inner growth with purpose. The Stoics saw the mind as the most important fortress a person can build. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that happiness depends on the quality of our thoughts, and that we have full authority over what we allow to dwell in our minds. This means carefully choosing what you let influence you, from ideas and opinions to the way you interpret events. A strong inner world is not one that never feels disturbance, but one solid enough not to collapse when trouble comes. Along with managing your thoughts, you must cultivate inner stillness. Time spent in meditation, deep breathing, or journaling helps restore order, release tension, and renew mental energy. This is not an escape from life, but a way to create space for processing and responding wisely. When your inner ground is firm, you no longer feel swept away by sudden changes. Building your inner world is a lifelong process of patience and discipline. Every day you strengthen it with small choices, choosing silence over meaningless arguments, focusing on what you can control instead of complaining, learning from challenges rather than resenting them. Over time, these choices lay a foundation from which you can live with confidence, tranquility, and true freedom. When your inner world is strong, the storms outside become only passing winds, and you keep walking steadily on your path. 11. Recognize and release others' projections. Projection happens when someone unloads their own thoughts, emotions, or insecurities onto you, turning you into a mirror of what they carry inside. It often occurs unconsciously when they assign to you intentions, feelings, or traits that actually belong to themselves. If you don't recognize it, you may be drawn into defending yourself, doubting yourself, or trying to prove your worth. But once you understand this mechanism, you see that such judgments usually reveal far more about them than about you. Letting go of projections begins with distinguishing between constructive feedback and reactions rooted in someone else's personal psychology. When a comment carries heavy negative emotion unrelated to your actual actions, it is likely a projection. In such cases, rather than absorbing it and letting it define you, observe it and let it pass. You do not need to react to prove yourself, because the truth of who you are does not reside in others' perceptions. Stoic philosophy teaches that we can control only our own actions and thoughts, not others' perspectives or feelings. Epictetus advised that if someone misunderstands you, don't be quick to trouble yourself, for it is their issue, not yours. Keeping distance from projections protects your inner peace and prevents your self-image from being warped by someone else's lens. When you recognize and release projections, you stop wasting energy responding to what was never truly yours to carry. Instead, you focus on living in alignment with your values, maintaining clarity in thought and action. This not only strengthens you against social pressure, but also frees you from the constant burden of proving your worth in others' eyes. That is a profound form of freedom. The freedom from the stories others try to impose on you. 12. Protect your peace as you protect your health. Inner peace does not happen by chance, and once lost, it is, in my view, the principles just shared are not abstract theories, but practical tools you can apply immediately to change the way you live and see the world. Stoicism does not seek to paint life in brighter colors or erase hardship. It helps us face it with calm, clarity, and self-command. When understood and practiced, you will realize that the greatest power lies in mastering your thoughts and responses, not in controlling every circumstance. This frees you from the pressure of comparison, from chasing the standards of others, and gives you the strength to live in alignment with your core values. Each day becomes an opportunity for training, each challenge a step forward in the journey of growth. Above all, it reminds us that time, energy, and peace are priceless assets to be cherished and guarded with full awareness. If you find these values helpful, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next content. Finally, remember that life waits for no one, and each passing day is a singular opportunity to live as the person you want to become.